podcast. So, Jake, without any further ado, this Alabama-Michigan matchup in the Rose Bowl for the semifinals of the college football playoff. Just your initial thoughts on this matchup and what you're looking forward to most about this matchup.
Well, I want to start off by saying, Stacey, it kind of got a little bit more interesting today. I don't know if you saw Jim Harbaugh's comments about Jalen Milroe, but he said he's just a more polished Alex Orji, which is their backup quarterback. So, I mean, Jim, you've been in this forever now, and you know how these things work. You do not give Alabama any kind of bulletin board material to give them any life in a game or more life in the game per se. And you just did. You talking about our quarterback and man, that is the wrong thing to do, because if somebody's got a point to prove, I think it's going to be Jalen Milroe in this game. And initially, I think he's going to have a big game. I really do. So I'm excited. I think the offensive line is going to come and show up and show out like they have, the last 4 to 5 weeks in the season. And the defense is just going to be special like they have been all season. So, man, it can't get here quick enough, man, honestly.
Dude, it feels like it has been 6 months since Alabama last played a football game and won the SEC championship. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to the matchup, Jake. I think this is a game where when you look at the two teams, Michigan is built a lot like Alabama and Georgia, except they don't have the dudes that Alabama and Georgia have, especially on the perimeter. Look, Michigan's a good team. I don't want to take anything away from those guys, but Michigan has not faced an athlete at quarterback like Jalen Milroe all season. And that's no fault of their own. There is no other athlete at the quarterback position like Jalen Milroe outside of Jaden Daniels.
Right.
So it's a totally different animal. You can't prep for it. I don't care who you have back there. You're not going to imitate what Jalen Milroe can do from the quarterback position. Not only his ability to run the ball, but be able to hit the play action pass deep down the field. He's starting to understand the nuances of playing the position, and he just gets better and better every time he drops back to pass the football, Jake. And I'm with you. It seems a little odd for Harbaugh to kind of poke the bear there and mention that he's just a little bit more polished version of their backup quarterback. I mean, good grief. I don't think their backup quarterback has, 12 starts or, 10 to 12 starts in the SEC or won the SEC championship over the number one team in the Georgia Bulldogs. So I don't understand that philosophy or that thought process from Jim Harbaugh, but Michigan hadn't been able to help themselves. They've run their mouth this entire time leading up to this game. I mean, you look at what former offensive lineman Tyler Lewan said, Michigan's going to win by double digits. I mean, he acts like Alabama's chopped liver.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what he's been watching. I don't know if he's even watched one single snap of Alabama football all season long, but if he has, he's just not being truthful.
Well, the thing about it is a lot of these teams remember, or a lot of these people remember how the team was in the USF game. I mean, that was week 3, and then the week before that, Texas beat us by 10. Okay, big whoop. Texas in the college football playoff just like Alabama is now. What happened after the South Florida game? Alabama got on the roll. They, as good as Ole Miss's offense is, Alabama held them to 10 points.
Yeah,
I mean, and I think Alabama held them to the lowest yardage all season. I'm not sure in that Georgia game. I'm not sure how that worked out. It might have been Alabama and Georgia might have been 1-2 in that aspect. But I mean, and then Tennessee, we was down at half, come back and had a huge surge and won. Took a half, but we slowed down Jaden Daniels, and unfortunately he got hurt. But a lot of people talk about, well, if he was in that game all 4 quarters. That third quarter, I mean, he was on the field, I think 5 times and only scored 1 touchdown. So, I mean, Alabama and Jalen Milroe have gotten better each and every game since that South Florida game. And I guess people just quit watching that, at that point. But you've got to watch the entire season.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there. I think that like you said, most fans and analysts and whatever you want to call them around the country kind of stopped keeping up with Alabama after that South Florida game, Jake. They saw them get beaten week 2 by Texas, and then they see them lay an egg and barely beat a South Florida team, who, by the way, did go to a bowl game, and they wouldn't chop liver. I mean, they weren't just the worst team ever, but
no.
They see them struggle against them, and they just write them off. They're done. They think Alabama's, they're dead, buried, and gone. And what they didn't see, if they stopped watching and stopped keeping up, was, like you mentioned, the growth that this team showed.
Right.
and the maturity, the leadership that they had within that locker room, the coaching ability of Coach Saban, and got to give Tommy Rees some respect, and Kevin Steele as well, and the way that coaching staff was able to kind of gel, get together, work out all the kinks, and develop this team into one of the best teams in college football. And if you're one of those fans or analysts from that's not associated with Alabama, and you just stop watching this team after week 3, then you've missed one of the most incredible developments of a team that you're going to see. And Jake, right now, I think Alabama has the momentum more than anybody else heading into the playoff. They're the team that you can legitimately say has gotten better and better and better. Texas has had a few bumps in the roads along the way since week 2 or week 3. Michigan, they just haven't played enough good teams or enough teams that have a pulse on offense to know what they're really made of. And we know what Michigan has done in the past against Georgia's and Alabama's and SEC caliber teams in these either playoff or bowl game matchups. They lay an egg. I think Jim Harbaugh, has he won one bowl game as Michigan's coach?
I don't think he has.
So I just think if you throw all that in there, Jake, you have to look at this game and think, man, I just yeah. Trina says Dave Portnoy posted on X he's betting $1 million on Michigan to win. My gosh,
he's about to lose $1 million. I'm sorry. That is. I'm glad he got that kind of money to throw around like that, but that's just stupid.
Yeah, I mean that's just that's ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I want to try to get the comments. Michigan fans and former players just keep providing bulletin board material. Bama is battle tested all season. Michigan played OSU and some other teams. Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at like their September schedule, Jake, my gosh, it was like Bowling Green, UNLV, Rutgers. I mean, I think the best team they played in the first month was Rutgers. I mean, think about that.
Yeah, 6-6 Rutgers.
Yeah, I think they were 5-7.
There's 5-7. That's right, because they kind of struggled there in the end. But yeah, Jim Harbaugh was 0-2 in the college football era, and that's the thing. Last year, he got beat by TCU, who went on to play the national championship game and got embarrassed by Georgia. I mean, that's pretty bad when you got beat by TCU, who went on to get absolutely destroyed. In the national championship game. That just tells you something.
Yeah, I'm not sure Harbaugh's ever won a big game in his life.
I mean, I don't know if he has. I mean, besides Ohio State, and that's just a rivalry game.
I mean, I'm talking about on a national scale.
No, he hasn't. I don't think he has.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to the Verbo Citrus Bowl a couple years ago, and Alabama beats them. What was it? Probably by a couple touchdowns at least.
Yeah,
in the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, I think they got 16-14 at halftime. I think Michigan had a lead, and then
I don't think they scored in the second half.
They didn't score in the second half, and that's the thing, Stacey. Their offense is set up to run the ball because they have two great running backs. But what is Alabama's defense set up to do? It is to stop the run. Now, I know, and everybody also talks about, well, they had to have a miracle against Auburn to win. Everybody in the Southeast and knows about the Iron Bowl knows that game is weird in Jordan-Hare every single year. I mean, any SEC school that goes to Jordan-Hare, it's just a weird time that they struggle. I don't know what it is. Like I said before, that is going to bulldoze that stadium down and rebuild it off of that Indian burial ground or whatever. But it's just a weird moment. But what happened at the end? Alabama won, and then the week after that, they beat Georgia, who was on a 29-game winning streak or had a chance to get 29 games. And honestly, I don't care what the final score says. Alabama dominated that game after that first series when Georgia went down and scored the ball.
Well, look, I get so sick of people bringing up close wins for teams.
Right.
And this is across the board because people, for some reason, don't bring up the fact that Michigan barely escaped Maryland.
Right.
So, I mean, if we want to talk about Alabama barely escaping Auburn, we got to talk about Michigan barely escaping Maryland, who, by the way, Maryland and Auburn play each other, correct, in the ball game?
Correct. Yep.
But Talia's not playing, so that changes some things. But
yep.
But I just look, Michigan has not played like yet. Michigan's opponents don't measure up to what Alabama's faced. Alabama faced the 5th toughest schedule in college football. I think Michigan was around 35th, something like that. So look, schedule strength should matter when you look at teams and what they've accomplished throughout the season. And I think that's you could make the argument that's part of the reason Alabama's in this playoff because of the schedule that they faced and was able to get through with a 12-1 record with an SEC championship win.
Right, exactly. And going off of, still saying in this game, talking about the defense, the growth of the defensive line this year has been the one of the turning points of this team. I feel like, Stacey, just how great they have been in this season.
Yeah, I think if you look at turning what's made the biggest differences in this team, I think there's three primary things. Obviously, it all starts with the fact that Jalen Milroe really ascended into a playmaker at the quarterback position.
Yep.
But then the offensive line got better. And also, like you mentioned, I think the defensive line, and when I mean the defensive line, I mean and I think who you mean as well is guys like Justin Aboybe, Tim Smith, Jaheim Otis, Jamarian Latham, Tim Keenan, those type guys stepped up and played at the level that Alabama needed them to play.
Right.
And I think, like you mentioned, that also helped. And it helps when you got the back end like Alabama has with Kool-Aid, Terrion, Downs, Key, Malachi Moore. When you have those type of guys in the back end of your defense, it makes it easier to play up front. It's a team sport for a reason. I mean, when guys are playing well on all three levels, it makes your team that much better.
Yeah,